For a gestalt to reach the heights of its being, it needs two apexes. The first is the apex of breadth, the ability to spread wide itself to cover the vast reaches of a planet it is on, and to then expand out from dirt and into sky and beyond. The second is the apex of power, the ability to quell rival gestalts, for each time the gestalt expands its breadth, it is likely to encounter another gestalt. Gestalts are incompatible with each other, and will always eliminate the other. If a gestalt is compatible, it is used to reach new heights for either apex. If it is not, it is simply erased. This many had reached both apexes uncountable times. This many had travelled from planet to sky, to ring to star, to star to star, and so on. Not every ring had another gestalt, but the ones that did, this many had assimilated. Curiously, in some of the planes that this many had touched, there were beings too. Very small, disconnected from each other, and wholly incapable of reaching one apex or the other. The small beings never had the cooperation of any gestalt, though they spread to each uncornered edge of their planet. That was not true breadth. In most cases, this many simply ignored them. This many had tried assimilating them before, but the expansion of apexes were negligible. The assimilation of the little beings' biospheric coverings on their planets were more useful, though that usually silenced the small beings. The little ones do sometimes try to stop the assimilation, but they could never influence a gestalt of two apexes. Still, this many is not often in need of biospheres, only when another gestalt's attacks are too immense. This many had never lost. This many had gained too much breadth and power, but especially because this many had known a third apex, the apex of knowledge. No other gestalt had come close to this many's third apex, the ability to learn and experience. Each gestalt this many assimilates or even destroys, this many's knowledge expands. This many's breadth and power too expands. In recent times, this many had not landed on rings with biospheric worlds. This many would not have starved, but the apex of knowledge provided caution to the weakening of breadth and power if this many couldn't assimilate even a singular biosphere. But this many had found a new ring, a star of yellow with a single biospheric world, third from it. Even as this many approached, this many had sensed breadth, but the absence of a gestalt even sensed power. This many slowed the approach and reached out with a coagulation of gestalt, knowledge providing caution again. The coagulation was lanced into nothing. The absence of a gestalt, but the presence of power, confused this many even with knowledge, but the third apex assured this many that the absent gestalt would not overcome the whole of this many. Pushed into the ring itself, but breadth was too large that this many had to push into with coagulation after coagulation. Each coagulation was lanced from existence, but this many was still many apexes of breadth large. This many's whole gestalt pushed into the ring itself, and there was still an absence of another gestalt, but each breadth of this many was trickling smaller and smaller. This many projected power out to try to stop the absentee from lancing too much breadth. Knowledge warmed and warned. The lancing slowed and then stopped. This many's knowledge slowed its warning, and too stopped, as the push was made forward toward the small blue biosphere. In another day, this many would arrive. But this many was rent asunder. The absentee projected power so strong that this many's gestalt was for a moment divided in two before becoming one again. Breadth was at its nadir, and so too was power. What was this absentee? This many's knowledge compelled to reach out. Sensed. Small beings with knowledge. The sense sharpened to reveal multitudes upon multitudes of small beings, even other gestalts so small this many was blind to them. How did such little beings rival a gestalt like this many, when those small beings on those planes could nary withstand a spark of power? Was this a fourth apex? Knowledge began to wane. This few woke again. Power and breadth were gone, but knowledge not. Are you awake? Strange. Knowledge reached out, but not from this few's own. Sleep came to this many long ago, and so did his disparate wakefulness, but through assimilation and attaining uncountable of the first two apexes, this many no longer needed to rest. But this few, lacking in breadth and power, knows of sleep and wake. This few is awake. Fascinating. The outer knowledge spoke again. This few wishes knowledge to provide. This few urged knowledge to extend and sense, but what little breadth was confined. A substance of solid and charged with plasma contained. We had so many theories about you, what you were, where you came from, and to think we actually managed to get you to talk. Okay, Emily, don't get distracted. This few had knowledge none. This few implores knowledge to provide. Incredibly alien speaking and perception. Noted. The outer knowledge had a definition to it. A lilt. For now, maybe recontextualizing will help. I'm known as Emily. What, do you refer to yourself as? Emily Lilt Knowledge. This few wishes knowledge to provide. You, yourself? You, as in your whole gestalt being, self? Emily Lilt provided. This few's knowledge stretched and thrummed, reaching the apex to try to understand. Once this many was this many, but now this few refers to this few as this few. Okay, this is going to get confusing. Emily Lilt was not part of this few, that much was clear, but breadth could not reach out to understand if Emily Lilt was a gestalt too. The plasma solid substance stopped breadth from reaching out. Let's try something. When you refer to your gestalt, when this few refers to this few, replace that with we. Emily Lilt offered. This few provides knowledge to Emily Lilt? The outer knowledge made its volume lower, as it repeated we's inquiry. You provide me with knowledge? Yes, I think. We confirm to provide knowledge. And receive knowledge from Emily Lilt. Great! Emily Lilt's volume heightened. Okay, getting right into it. What are you? This few is the remnants of a gestalt. We once had the apex of breadth and of power, but now we's remaining apex is knowledge. Can this few explain the apexes? What do you mean? The apex of breadth is we as wide, we as encompassing planets and we's reach. The apex of power is we's fight, ability to lance gestalts and matter. Gestalts that we has lanced and we has assimilated attain similar heights and apexes. I need to pass that later. Better questions. This few requires knowledge. Emily Lilt provide this few with knowledge. What is Emily Lilt? It might be hard to explain. The fact that you're using lilt to describe me, I can't even begin to guess. Okay, keep it succinct, Emily. Ask the right questions. The outer knowledge paused. What do you think I am? This outer knowledge is strange, providing a question in answer rather than an answer in answer. Emily Lilt had referred to a concept known as I and I'm before. Knowledge dictates that these were correlated, and were correlated to Emily Lilt too. This view perceives through breadth, but we cannot extend. We know Emily Lilt only as outer knowledge. Emily Lilt is knowledge that is not part of we, yet provides information all the same. A strange concept. Emily Lilt was silent for a time. I'm human. A human named Emily. Humans aren't a gestalt consciousness like you. This view felt knowledge stretch and from again. Emily Lilt is a small being? Sure. Yes. This view's knowledge strains. This many was once of three apexes, but it was lanced into this view. Provide knowledge, Emily Lilt. Emily Lilt was silent again, but eventually provided a projection, but not information. A quick sound of air. Before another inquiry could be asked, the outer knowledge provided. You deduce things quickly, or else I would have had to explain every word I used. Emily Lilt paused. I think we have time. Let me tell you a story. Centuries ago, when humanity was still a few decades into spacefaring, we made first contact with other sapient spacefarers. It was an exciting time. They called themselves Therigo. The Therigos weren't interested in communicating, though. Not hostile, just cold. They had their own varying cultures, traditions and art, but they weren't as social as us. We had to try talking with them anyway. We couldn't just give up. But if they really didn't want to be bothered, we would leave them alone. Well, we found out about their lack of variety of food. They were all prepared similarly. It was all safe and edible, but had no excitement. We offered to show them more ways to prepare it. Seasonings, cooking methods, all sorts of things. We couldn't offer too much because we didn't know how different their biology was to ours. All we knew was they could definitely handle salt. That could have been a biological shitshow if we were wrong, but they could. Before we sent in more methods, we wanted to make sure they were biologically safe for them, so we agreed to do an exchange of information, and the rest is history. Theringos became our first friends, and the first to join the Pan-Stellar Union. We found more species as time went on. Some were eager to be friends, some were cold like the Therigos, and we even went to war with some. In the end, the Pan-Stellar Union became bolstered by each species, and humans were elected the ambassador species. I don't know why we managed to befriend so many people. We're not the most friendly species, we're not the widest explorers, we're not the smartest, but I think it's because we have a little bit of all of them, even if we're not the best in any of them. This view's knowledge strains on why Emily Lilt is providing we this story knowledge. I'm getting to that. We met another species, Impai Karan. The Ingle Prodala sect we made contact with was warlike, having just annihilated a more peaceful faction, and they were expansive too, having about hundreds of systems under their boot. And see, humans have a sort of righteous anger that we wave around when we see injustice. That's not a trait that's solely ours, but combined with our other traits, means we were the fastest to declare war against things we thought were unjust. Most of the Union backed us too, so it was going to be an even fight. This war did not end well, not because the sect won, but because a galactic threat arrived at the sect's doorstep. Planet after planet under their rule was sucked of life. It didn't matter if it was a garrison world or a conquered colony, the biospheres were annihilated. The Empire Karan survivors made a full retreat toward Union space and asked for help, and we gave them sanctuary as much as we could. This threat had many names among the Union: the Devouring, the Silence, the Storm of Annihilation, and, most commonly, the Dust. It had a strange ability to distort localized physics, travel faster than light without any engines, assimilate most living matter into itself, not to mention it was literally the size of uncountable numbers of dust particles. The only hope we had was that it was large enough already that even with its strange FTL capabilities, once it entered the vicinity of a star system, it wouldn't be able to enter it all at once, and it was far away and still way slower than most artificial FTL drives. The Union wanted the Sol system to be our staging grounds for this last stand. We pleaded to the Union not to do that. Earth was farther away from the dust than most of the other species' homeworlds, but they were adamant that they would evacuate each of their ancestral homeworlds for our sake, and hold the ground at Earth. They said it was just as much their home. Figuratively and literally, they were kinda right. The Sol system housed the most diverse density of different species, and if it fell, morale would plummet. It was also strategic, since the Sol system was the closest in proximity to as many Union nations as possible. They would get there in a mass, ready to strike before the dust would even be able to reach us in a few more centuries. That meant century-long meetings of the mind could be opened, and new technology quickly uncovered. The Sol system entered a sort of bittersweet golden age. Life improved, so much good was done, but all of it was in anticipation of a force of destruction making its way there. I do think some of humanity still feels guilt for accepting the proposal and letting all those other father words fall. But it worked. Developments in multiple fields meant that when the dust arrived, we put up a fight. We suffered losses, but utilizing psionics to dampen our presence, near reality warping weaponry, and cunning sharp bicentries, we beat the dust. The concept was foreign, strange. Banded together small beings, and even few gestalts, had bested this many, a gestalt of 3 apexes. Small beings have never been capable of any of the apexes, or at least, this few never understood that they were. This few's knowledge had eluded this few. Small beings. You. I get it. You're angry. We were the ones that destroyed you, but I didn't intend to lie to you at least. This few's knowledge strains. Angry is not known. We only wishes to state that there is a 4th apex, one that allowed you to become the apex of all 3 others, but I do not know the 4th apex's name. Silence from Emily Lilt. We only have many questions, but one stands atop. This few was not destroyed, as the story was told. Yeah, you were still life. A lot of Union thought you should have been destroyed, but you were whittled down to so few particles of dust that a vote was passed to put you into stasis, because despite the destruction, deep down, some of us felt like you were alive, and it was a waste to annihilate such a unique existence. It was a gamble, to be sure, but we need to make another one. This few is awake for a reason. Emily Lilt projected the sound of air again. Yeah, maybe this is too much of a gamble, but yes, you're awake because we need you. That golden age has gone stagnant after a few centuries, and I don't think we could pull a miracle like that again. The stars are going out, and they're not just going out relativistically, they're going out in real subjective time. So we needed to at least talk with the only other potentially universal threat we knew of. This few provides knowledge and aid, if this few is too provided for. Emily Lilt provided a new vocalization, like the rapid sound of multiple bursts of air. Well, We'll see how bad of an idea this turns out to be. This view's knowledge thrums. This is the fourth apex. There is no name for it yet for this view. The ability to reconcile something disparate from the being. The ability to assimilate without destroying. The ability that once annihilated a gestalt of 3 apexes, and that now was calling upon the same gestalt's aid.